Welcome back, everyone, to Your Confidence Unleashed. This summit is all about how to break through limiting beliefs to own your unique magic, unleash it into the world with unwavering confidence, and create the life you've always wanted. So, we are very happy today to have Casey Benjamin with us. Welcome, Casey.
Hi, Kelly. Thank you for having me today.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. So, just to keep these conversations really jam-packed with juiciness and value for everyone watching and listening, will you just introduce yourself to us briefly? And then people who want to know more are going to be able to find you and get into your world later and learn much more about you. But a brief introduction would be wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Casey Benjamin. I am the founder of the Courage Project and the creator of A Map of You. And I'm an epigenetics coach, which basically means that I help people understand who they are on a biological level. So underneath all the conditioning, all of the layers, all of the life experiences they had, helping them get back to their authentic selves and be the best version that they can be.
Oh, that's beautiful. So fascinating. I absolutely love that. The idea of who we actually are at our core.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people think that coaching is about changing or evolving or having something wrong with you, right? So I
Yeah, a
I
lot of,
always think
yeah,
it's really important to make sure that's very clear that it's really more about getting back to who we truly are.
absolutely. And I mean, I think as humans, we do want to strive, we want to progress and things like that. We do want to evolve, and that can be a big part of coaching. But I think there is this other amazing part that we're already amazing, and we don't actually need fixing. There's nothing wrong with us, and that's the probably the best thing that my clients come to. That point in the sessions where they go, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with me." That's my favorite bit. So yeah. More of that in the world.
Yes, no doubt, no doubt. Good.
Yeah.
Well, I would love to hear, Casey, a little bit about your confidence journey. So
Mm.
you certainly come off as very confident, and I know you're very active on social media, and anybody who would see you would say that you're a very confident person.
Yeah,
So has
definitely.
it always been that way? And
It has no, it's definitely not always been that way. It's been a roller coaster as well. Like, I don't always feel confident, but I'm so much more confident than I used to be. Like, I used to be called shy when I was a little girl. So, I think a lot of people probably wouldn't imagine that about me now. But yeah, I was a shy little girl. I was always looking to, try to fit in, do the right thing. And I was so committed to being perfect and making everybody else around me happy that I wouldn't try anything that I thought I might fail at. So yeah, I have changed a lot over the years. Now I'm much more confident with making mistakes and things like that, and just having a go, and putting myself out there as well. But it took a long time to get to that point.
yeah, oh my gosh, I can so relate to that.
Mhm.
So maybe you can take us through a little bit of the extremes in your confidence journey. So maybe tell us about a
Yeah.
time that you really felt lacking in your confidence, that you really felt sort of
Yeah.
stripped of your confidence. And then if you can describe a time for us when you really felt extremely confident and sort of like you could do anything, just to see
Yeah.
the polarity there.
Yeah, it's a huge polarity. And when I think back on it, it was probably 2015 where I was at one of my lowest moments. I had completely lost myself and I didn't know who I was anymore. I had tried to do everything that, I was supposed to do in air quotes. I tried to do everything that I thought was going to make my parents happy and those around me happy. So I'd run into a relationship of head first basically with this man, and ended up moving to the country. I had gone into teaching, primary school teaching, because that was a nice, safe, stable job. I had a mortgage, I had a nice car, I ended up getting engaged, getting married, having the baby and everything. So I'd done all of the things that, society and everyone who told me, was the right thing to do. And I was miserable, and it was really devastating because I'd kind of bought into this idea that, this is what success looks like. So I was terrified because I didn't know, I thought there was something wrong with me. And I had been trying to kind of find, going to psychologists and therapists and doing, like seeking external advice as well from other people. What should I do? And I remember this particular moment, like, I was strung out, I was completely sleep deprived, having a baby, or, was a toddler at this point in 2015. And, I remember I'd had an argument with my husband. The relationship was not a great relationship, on either of our parts. It was quite toxic. So, it was going downhill very quickly. And, he'd left, after we'd had a big fight. And I remember I was trying to make myself toast, and I dropped the toast and it landed like butter down, like on the kitchen floor. And it was it was like a crying over spilt milk kind of moment, but I was like, it was just the last straw for me. Yeah. And I just fell in a heap. And I'd at that point, I'd lost all kind of hope. And I was just like, I don't know what to do now. I've done everything I thought I was supposed to do. And there was this tiny little sliver of hope still left in there. And I thought, well, if I've done everything that I thought was going to make everybody else happy and I'm miserable, then maybe I should just have a go at making myself happy and just not worrying about anyone else. And that's the point where I started to go on this journey of, who am I? Because at that point I had no idea who I was. I'd completely lost myself. And, I didn't know what I liked, what I didn't like, or what my characteristics were. I was just constantly going around wearing masks and trying to, please everyone. So I went on this big journey to find out who I was. I did all the personality quizzes, like everything from Myers-Briggs to eDisc to Enneagram to human design. Right, even to like the BuzzFeed ones where you find out like what breed of dog you are, or which Harry Potter house you're supposed to be into. And each one of those was like, yeah, fantastic to like help me understand myself. And so I was kind of piecing everything together. And I think the moment where it really all culminated for me was when I did my PH360 training. That's the profiling system that I use with my clients. And it's the biological element of it. So finding out who you are kind of on a scientific level and that nature part of you. And the way that I studied through Precision Health Alliance, they're the ones that, created all of this. And it's an environment where they want you to be yourself, and you just get to, like, they love who you are and all of the differences, and you get to actually show up like that. They have created like pathways for you to do the work in your way. And I remember seeing my profile from that point of view and actually reading things about myself that I was like, yeah, that's who I am. And this, like, being able to show up as my authentic self and embrace my strengths. And, they're not strengths that, I've kind of, because a lot of with those personality tests, I feel like I can cheat that pretty well. Totally. I can answer it.
You can see yourself
with the answer I think.
Oh yeah.
I think I want. I think I should have. But this was just that biological level. So there was some kind of like quite confronting things in there, because there were parts of myself that I hadn't even been allowed to develop. That I was like, oh, that's how I am naturally, and I've always like wondered if I could be like that. But that, that is who I can step into. So that was probably that moment where I felt on top of the world, where I felt appreciated for who I was. And I was starting to understand who I was at my very core and what was possible for me going forward as well. So, a big part about it was, I'm the activator health type. And that's, somebody that loves to teach, loves to speak, loves to present. So no wonder I show up, quite confidently on Instagram and social media and things like that, and why I jumped at the chance to have a chat with you as well. It's what I'm wired to do. Maybe, there's other things like organization and things like that, planning and, lots of security and stability that don't come naturally to me.
Right.
And actually having that feedback as well, understanding that that's not what I'm wired to do, because I'm an innovator. I'm here to break rules and stuff. That having that confirmation, that validation, I was like, oh, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm amazing and I've got gifts to give this world. So yeah, that was the point where I was like, I can actually be me, and that's a wonderful gift for the universe.
How beautiful. Oh my gosh. I mean, the what I'm hearing from you is like those, what I'm feeling, what I'm I guess interpreting and experiencing myself when you're talking is sort of this sense of like having these inklings, having these thoughts that maybe these things are in you, and then just having it all presented to you as yes, like yes, this is you, and yes, you're free to be this person, and how beautiful.
It was.
So how does that process actually work, Casey? It's a test, just like all of those Harry Potter ones?
It is an assessment, but it's done with measurements. So a lot of people think it's going to be, blood analysis and things like that, because we're looking at your actual DNA. But what the scientists have worked out is how to tell via the ratios of somebody's body and, the length of their, ring finger in comparison to their index finger, and all of these different kind of genetic markers on our body. So it's really just measurements, and then we ask a lot in terms of the what that person's current physical state is as well, to help us understand how to get them back to their best, like how to nurture them and what they need in any given moment, whether it be what they're eating, how they're exercising, the social environments for them, what they should be doing career-wise, what they shouldn't be doing career-wise, whatever's going to help them to thrive. So yeah, basically it's a questionnaire. I usually take clients through it, or I can measure them in person if they want to, have a face-to-face meeting. But yeah, it's not one that you can muck up, because it's measurements. You can't cheat this test. So it gives me a lot of confidence to actually help people understand this through that method.
Fascinating. So it actually, in terms of health, it tells you sort of where you're supposed to be from a physical standpoint as well, your ideal physical state. How fascinating.
Yeah, it gives you all the recommendations. So write down, like for me, for example, different immune boosting foods and things like that, and what quantities. And I find, when I first looked at it, I was like, oh yeah, when I'm like trying to nourish myself, that's what I eat. So it was like, again, the inklings of like, yeah, I know how to take care of myself. And it's just that confirmation. There were some things obviously that I was like, I had no idea that, that would help me more so than, that. And a lot of it was kind of permission to do things the way that, I really feel is right for me.
Sure.
And yeah, permission to be me.
Wow. It seems like this process, and you've explained that it has for you certainly impacted your confidence. Have you seen that in your clients as well? I mean, I can just see how this would really impact confidence in a really positive, powerful way.
Yeah, it's been amazing to see the transformation because, I mean, for example, there's one particular type of person called the diplomat. And I mean, with this, everybody's an individual and there are lots of variations within each of the types. So we can't fully categorize people, but with the particular type, we see some similarities amongst the types. And with the diplomat, they've often been told to, get up at 5 a.m., seize the day, take massive action, make quick decisions, do multitask and things like that. And they're not wired that way. And so to have for them to see, okay, I'm actually supposed to sleep in, I've got a lot of endurance. So, I may have a slow run up to do tasks, but when I start going, then I have a lot more sort of endurance and I can keep that going. And, planning's wonderful for me. And consistent steps are much better for me than massive action and things like that. And for them to actually see that, it's like I see them perk up like in that moment and they're like, yeah, I am like that. oh, I didn't know that was like a good thing, because
Wow.
sometimes, we're limited by our perspective of how we are, and we don't really necessarily have that point of comparison sometimes. So when they
Mm,
actually see, oh, this is your gift, and they see it laid out like that, they're like, oh, okay, I can really step into that. I didn't know that that was something other people couldn't do. And then, as they kind of look for evidence in their lives as to, those elements,
mm,
I can see the confidence develop over time as well. And it's so incredibly
wow.
beautiful.
How rewarding. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That concept of not knowing that your gifts are actually gifts, I think is so
Hmm.
powerful. Like, not sometimes we think that, well, the things that come easy to me come easy to everyone, right? When in
Yeah.
reality, some of the smallest things about us are really, really difficult, or other people really, really struggle with. So I can see
100%.
how valuable it is to really know all those little gifts and celebrate
Yeah.
those.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of the time, our parents or caregivers or teachers or whatever, they're coming from their perspective. And so when they've seen us
Mm,
grow up, they see certain parts of our element, and they just want to, make sure that we're safe, and, that we're going to fit in. So, they try to give us advice or shape us in some way. And we can start to feel sometimes that our gifts are something to be shameful of, because it's
yeah.
different to, whatever so and so was telling us about ourselves. It might be different to them, and they might find that challenging. But yeah, I think when we as humans start to understand that we've all got a role to play, and we're different for a reason, and the world needs us to be different for a reason. We need people with different strengths. I think that's where the real magic is.
It's just so empowering. If you think of this on a larger scale, I mean, thinking about a couple generations back as women, and how sort of everyone did just fit into those boxes for the most part. They did just do what
Yeah.
society told them, and they never questioned it. And
Yeah.
it was never even, for them, seen as an option that they could do anything else. And what a dramatic change we've all stepped into, right? And
Yeah.
how impactful this can be across the world. I mean, as all of us step into who we can truly be, and really expressing that and giving ourselves permission, as you say, it's
Yeah.
just, it's so powerful.
It really is.
That's
I'm
beautiful.
optimistic about the future for
Yeah.
this reason.
And seeing
Yeah.
the transformation, I'm sure, in your clients helps you be even more
Yeah.
optimistic over and over again.
Yeah. Definitely.
Beautiful. Something that really stood out to me about your story was that you just had the realization yourself. Like, it wasn't somebody coming to you and saying, "What if you make yourself happy?" A therapist or a friend, or it was something that just sort of dawned on you like a light bulb, that was just,
Yeah.
what would that look like?
Yeah.
Do you see that as your intuition coming through, a higher power? What does
Yeah.
that feel like for you?
I mean, some of it might be kind of like divine timing,
Mm,
but from what I know about myself, I learned through pain. I have to get really frustrated, and I'm sure that there were people telling me to just make myself happy and not worry about what anybody else thought, and to just, find out what lights me up. I'm sure I heard that a whole bunch of times, but you know, I am that kind of person that has to hit rock bottom sometimes to make that change, which is frustrating at times, but that's how I do it, and I'm accepting of that, and I'm learning how to try to make that change before I hit rock bottom these
mm.
days. But I just know, as the activator type, that is how I do it. We learn through pain, we learn through mistakes. And, that is, I like to kind of push myself to that point. So, yeah, for me, it was that point of, yeah, I'm done now. I've tried this. I know for sure that I can't live that stock standard,
Mhm.
cookie cutter life.
Yeah.
That doesn't work for me. Someone else, maybe it does, but it just didn't work for me. I'm not wired that way, and I had to get to that point of pain. Yeah.
That seems like it would even give you confidence in itself, that you know that you have to get to the point of pain and mistakes. Do you find that actually
Yeah.
allows you
I
to make mistakes.
Absolutely. And it's like, when I get frustrated with myself these days, or when, the pain gets too much, I'm like, oh, well, this is what I do. I'm a lot more compassionate towards myself now
Mm.
because I know that about myself, and I know that I'm pretty quick to learn mistakes. So yeah, it's good to know to know ourselves on that level. Yeah. And I think that's a lot about where my confidence has come from knowing myself and how I'm wired.
That's phenomenal. I can just see how this would affect sort of every aspect of our lives, right?
Mm.
The health, as you mentioned, must be really impactful. And I imagine it also guides us into how we can behave best in relationships or how to improve relationships.
Yeah.
Do you see a lot of that?
Absolutely. It's made such a huge difference to my own relationship with my wife.
Mm.
But even what you say about the health aspect there, as much as I hate to admit it, because I've got a major sweet tooth and I suffer from FOMO and things like that. So it's really hard for me to avoid certain things that I know aren't going to make me feel good. But I know that when I'm eating right for my type, and when I'm exercising in the way that's best for me, and when I'm getting enough sleep, my whole lens changes.
Wow.
Like how I view the world is completely different. So that's, of course, where I start with clients. And I notice that that brings confidence in itself. And then, with regards to relationships, I see the biggest thing probably for me is when you understand how somebody else is wired, you're less likely to judge them for
Mm.
their behaviors or their choices, and you're less likely to take it personally. And that's certainly been the case for me. Not always, I'm human, but
Yes.
when with my wife, like, she's an internal processor. And so when we, have a disagreement, she needs to go away and have some time to process that. And originally I thought, oh, she doesn't care about our relationship. She's avoiding me. I had all these horrible thoughts about what that meant. And I know for myself, I'm quite a reactive person, and I want to be the best, and I want our relationship to be the best. So
Mhm.
whenever we have, some kind of disagreement, I want to fix it now,
Yeah.
and I'm really quite, reactive and emotional. And, for somebody like my wife who, her like biological driver is safety. So that can be really challenging for her because I'm kind of coming at her. So I've had to learn to kind of manage myself, and just respect what she needs in that process as well.
Wow. That's so powerful.
Yeah.
I have to do it. I have to
Yeah,
get
let's
my
do it
I'm like so
sometime.
fascinated. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. Um, Casey, I imagine there are a lot of people out there listening to you right now who are feeling the same way as I am, that this is fascinating, that they want to know more about this, but also just that, you know, they're feeling permission from you just in talking about this and having this
Mm,
conversation, that they can be more of who they are. And
mm,
I have this feeling that there are a lot of them listening who really um, have sort of this inner knowing that they're supposed to be doing more than what they're doing right now, or if not more, just different, right? That sort of feeling of,
yeah.
this is not quite right, this is not quite me, there's more that I have to offer the world. For those women out there, what would you tell them from your experience in terms of, how to really move through that and step into to what they're feeling called to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the most important things is knowing oneself and going on that self discovery process, which is a real journey, and it can
Mm.
kind of be up and down. I think for me, knowing that, and everybody's different. So my process might not necessarily work for other people, but I think we can learn a lot from ourselves about what we don't like. So, you know, there's things, we might see things in the news or, you know, on TV, or we might, you know, have a certain interaction with someone and it makes us, you know, feel that uneasy feeling. And I think that's really important to tell us about ourselves. You know, that can tell us a lot of information about our values, because often it's the opposite thing. If we've got an uneasy feeling, we're searching for the opposite of that, and that's okay. So yeah, I think that, you know, understanding who we are at our core can really bring that level of confidence. And, you know, one of the things that I love about the whole idea of confidence is actually what other people see from us when we are certain within ourselves. You know, I got that concept from Remy Pearson, who, you know, is the founder of the Coaching Institute where I studied. And for me, the easiest way to become certain in myself was to go through that process of self-discovery, to know what my gifts and my talents were. So I think for women out there, embracing their own gifts and talents, and, you know, whether that be through the PH360 model or doing different strengths tests, Myers-Briggs, you know, all of those can help us to understand ourselves on a deeper level. And I think looking for evidence in our own lives as to where we've been like that can be really helpful as well. Another thing that I have to be really, really conscious of is my self-talk. You know, I can get into my head, especially when I'm getting out of my comfort zone a bit, because that's where the confidence wavers. I love to push myself. And, you know, I love to try new things. And as long as I'm pushing myself, I'm going to have that roller coaster ride with the confidence. So during those times, I notice the inner critic gets a little louder. And so I just have to be really onto that, really conscious of it, and just look for ways that I'm showing up for myself, and to look for ways that I am succeeding. And even if I'm not great at something, you know, I heard this ages ago, allow yourself to suck at something new. I think that's really important, because, you know, sometimes we can have this expectation that we're going to be perfect at things, and yet that's not going to happen, you know, especially if you're trying something new. So yeah, I think, you know, one thing, allowing yourself to be in your comfort zone a little bit in terms of embracing those strengths, being you, being your authentic self. And then, you know, when you are wanting to kind of push yourself a little bit and try new things, just being gentle and compassionate with yourself as you go through that process, watching that, you know, inner critic and the self-talk. And I think also having a good relationship with fear, because, you know, that's the thing that kind of comes up when we're pushing ourselves. And I know Elizabeth Gilbert talks about, you know, how she speaks to fear. You know, fear is a necessary biological thing. We're supposed to have fear, otherwise we wouldn't be able to survive. And so fear is not necessarily a reason not to do something. So when we see that fear come up and we feel that come up, and we hear that inner critic rising and all that, you know, that ego telling us not to do something, just having a gentle conversation with it, and not kind of, you know, there's all this stuff around, you know, beat fear to the punch and, you know, like kick fear in the butt and all this sort of thing. But it's like, you know, appreciating fear has a purpose, but it doesn't necessarily need to kind of, you know, be in control. I think that's another really important thing.
I love that. I love that. Thank you, Casey. This conversation has been so beautiful. I've really learned a lot from you, and just the confidence journey. It sort of seems like knowing ourselves more allows us to feel more comfortable as we step out of our comfort zone, right? It's sort of like it gives us more of that assurance, more of that confidence. So that's beautiful. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And you have a gift for everyone watching us today to get sort of into your world and learn more about you, right?
Yeah, definitely. I have an authentic self workbook. So for those people that are wanting to reconnect with who they are at their core, this is designed for them to help them discover their unique power, you know, and what they're here to do, really, and why they're different, why they do the things they do, and why that's a beautiful thing and what the world needs. So yeah, I'll share a link with you. So yeah, I'd love for people to make use of that. And, you know, they can also reach out to me if they have any questions.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Casey. That link will be on the page and you guys will know how to get in touch with Casey and get into her world and learn more about all of this fascinating stuff and about her in general. Thank you so much for being here, Casey.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Absolutely.